Our next presenters are Maya Tanda Tum and Reverend Alan Asmelash. Maya Tanda Tum is the Equity and Inclusion Consultant at Fairview Health Services in Minneapolis. She joined Fairview in 2005. Maya completed her Bachelor of Economics in 1992 and earned her Master in Health and Human Services Administration from St. Mary's University of Minnesota. Maya arrived in the United States in 2002 as an Asia Pacific Leadership Fellow at the East-West Center, an educational and research organization established by the U.S. Congress in Honolulu, Hawaii. Maya brings to her department and her clients at Fairview Services vast experience addressing issues and opportunities in a diverse working environment and a deep understanding of the breadth of diversity issues we work with in health services. During her study in Hawaii, she was awarded the Freeman Foundation Fellowship, George Soros Scholarship, and also received the Distinguished Community Service Award. She speaks a few other languages too, in addition to English. Reverend Dr. Alan Asmelat majored in theology and received a diploma from ABC Bible School from Methodist Theological Seminary, and earned his master and doctorate of ministry from Luther Seminary at St. Paul, Minnesota. He served as a lay mission minister to several churches and was involved in a mission and outreach in the U.S. and also internationally. Alem in 2009 became a naturalized American citizen and holds dual citizenship. Alem works since 2004 part-time as a chaplain at University of Minnesota Medical Center, Fairview Riverside. He's also working as a pastor at Trinity Lutheran Congregation. We are delightful to have you both here, and they're going to walk us through cross-cultural misunderstandings that we face during our everyday life. Maya,
thank you. Thank you, Pedro. Hello, good afternoon. How's your lunch? So hopefully you don't fall asleep. And then just like at the church, people sit at the back. So if you don't hear me, let me know. So what I want to share with you is, in case if you have difficulty understanding our accent, let us know. I'll try my best. Okay. So this is our ground rule. And then number two is also that is, I and Alam, we have been working together to present these kind of scenarios and cases. So we understand. So feel free to ask the question. We don't feel offended. This is our job. Okay? So these are our ground rules. And then another thing what I want to share with you is when Pedro asked our bio, this is what we share with the other organizations when we present it. However, did you notice that there are some kind of things we did not mention? Where are we originally from? Please don't Google. So I need volunteers, and then who wants to start? Nothing is right or wrong. Philippines is my neighbor's neighbor. So another volunteer. One more guess for our time. Cambodia is my neighbor's neighbor too. Welcome to our world. How about for Alam? Nothing is right or wrong. We don't feel offended.
I think I'm from this planet. You're just so quiet. Oh, to see. Okay. She wants to hear my accents.
So, okay, Ethiopia is correct. Okay. Thank you. Not door prize though. Sorry. However, in addition to the languages from the Amharic, one of the languages from Ethiopia, what languages Alam may speak other than English, Amharic, and other Tigrinya? So what other languages he may speak? Can you guess? French, Dutch. No.
No, it's not close.
I'm sorry, what is that? Swahili?
No.
Urdu? No.
No Italian. No.
So, Alam, do you want to share what languages do you speak? Do you want to greet in that language?
You heter Alan, så jag kom från Sverige. Yeah.
Who
So
can
I
answer
am
that?
the black Swedish guy.
So do you want to tell about yourself? That's what, in
Yeah.
the bio, I minimized that area. I did not include it. So do you want to say?
I born in Ethiopia from Eritrean Ethiopian family, but I just grew up in Sweden. And I studied
Did you
there.
understand
So
Swedish?
from Sweden I came here for further study. So homeland is Sweden, but my birthplace is Ethiopia.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
the language that I speak Swedish, so it is common. The Swedish, they can speak Norwegian and Danish, so I do that too.
Thank you, Alan. So at his home and with his family, preference language is English, then after that is Swedish with his children. So thank you, Alan, for sharing, and thank you to all of you. Hopefully I wake up. In here with our agenda for today, and then what I want to request you is that if you have a questions, let us know, and then we are going to present for an hour. And just like we are talking about conflict, cross-cultural communication, so just like a speed dating. And within an hour, try to cover 3 areas. So I will try my best, and then please ask us questions also, because you can read the slide later. So I will go through quickly also. Oh, sure, good question. I forgot. I am originally from Burma, B-U-R-M-A, Burma. It is also called Myanmar, country in Southeast Asia, next to Thailand, next to Laos. That's what I said. Cambodia is next to Laos, so my neighbor's neighbor. And surrounded by Laos, Thailand, China, India, and Bangladesh. So yeah, I'm originally from Burma. So people, when I said like that, people ask me that question, and then people think that I know everything because I know geography. But the truth is I don't know medical terminology. So lost in translation can be happen with me. So about our objectives, and then I give evaluations to all of you. So if you have time, I want to request, I need your feedback so that we can improve. Thanks. And then here is our population in the United States. So then we have had that about population change, but this is from the data. So then you can read that in here, like for example, Texas in 2000 and 2010, within 10 years, Texas, Hawaii, and District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. became the one of the majority-minority changing stage. So we are talking about the minority-majority reversing, but now we start seeing the data also, okay? And then this is in terms of demographic shift, if I'm going to look at it, let's see. Okay, so in here, in 2060, that is a little bit far for me, but I'm looking at 2012, so data is like this, in the green color, the one on the above. And then in terms of here in Minnesota, and this is our Minnesota data from 2010 data. How many of you are originally from Minnesota? Or live in Minnesota, work in Minnesota, okay? How about from the other states? Do you notice something similar to that in your states? So I will take 2 examples. One is that here in Minnesota, within 10 years, our demographic changed. For example, Black or African American change within 10 years is almost 60%. And then Asian, like someone like me, it is also around 51%. So these are the data. I'm sure people from the lab, you might want to see the data, so I want to share. So now, before we go into the conflict, do you happen to know your employee or your patient's demographic at your locations? Is this something similar to that? Okay, what state are you from? Southern Minnesota area. Okay, sure. So less diverse in that location. Okay. How about any other areas? Do you have questions or populations? Okay. So now the definition of conflict. So of course you all can read. And then from here, equity and inclusion from the diversity area, I usually focus only 2 areas. So data conflict. What I share with you, my data may be different than what you have seen at somewhere else, right? So that is very normal. And then working in the lab area, you know that kind of scenario. Another one is interest conflict. That is, you know that also. I don't think I need to explain. Structure is more like a Maybe if we are talking about the operations and finance, those kind of things, it's more like an issue. But for me, I look at two areas, value and relationship, in terms of race, ethnicity, or diversity or equity and inclusion area. Because sometimes we have a conflict because of my belief, it may be different than totally someone's belief. The way I grew up may be different than someone grew up. So that is the value. And then another one is the relationship. Because of the accent, poor communication, or maybe feeling, emotion, so that our value different, then I have a very strong feeling I don't agree with you. So these are the kind of conflict. So now, this is about the culture. So culture can be changed. So not necessarily if I came from this country, I may be always in that box. That might be different because it depends on where I am and how I am. That can be changed. So that is the one thing I want to highlight. And then I assume many of you have seen that iceberg theory. Okay, what is that? Do you want to share? Sure. So what you see may not necessarily what you will. How do you want to say it? You got it.
Oh, the iceberg theory is what you see is not always what you get. It's not what is outside is not necessarily what's inside.
Thank you. So that is the main concept. Sometimes what I come to the hospital, I speak in English, and I'm wearing a pant, so that you may think this woman, she knows everything, she can speak English, but not necessarily. Because of underneath my value being as what I came from, the way I've been rooted, or the way I believe in. So this is underneath of me. At the hospital setting, at the workplace, I still can pretend. I still can be as professional role, but at being as a patient, I probably cannot. Because at that time, I want to pray, or I want to eat, or I want to eat my traditional food. All these things can be happened. So that is the main thing about culture as an iceberg. So now, when there's a conflict come, that is the situation, either in the workplace, in the patient care setting, or with a coworker. So this is the theory I want to share with you. How many of you have seen this theory before? Any of you? It was done by the research. It is called Mitch Hammer, Dr. Mitch Hammer. I put his name at the bottom. And then in his theory, there are 4 boxes. So for our easy reference, I will call A, this one is A, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So number 1 is those are the people who will say speak directly. However, they are emotionally controlled. So you don't see they are angry or not. Totally flat face. And then number 2 are the people, they will tell emotionally expressive, but they will tell you also direct. So that are the number 2. So for them, discussion is more like a truth before peace. It should be the discussion. But for the people who discussion is say what you mean and mean what you say. And then number 3 is the people who speak indirectly. And then for them is emotionally very controlled. And then for them is peace before truth. Even though they are angry, but they try to be peace, keep the peace. And then number 4 is a group of people who think that if you want to say something, you should emotionally expressive. And then also you have to say indirectly instead of telling me very directly. So they are a group of 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to pause at here and I want you to think what box you will be in. Not necessarily I'm trying to put you in a box, but yes. So what box? Or maybe some of your co-workers in a workplace or a patient who may have sometimes a kind of pushback or conflict. You have it. So with that theory, with number 1, according to that research, is people from Minnesota. They will emotionally control, and then at the same time, they will tell you directly. And some people said they are people from European American. So within the United States, they based on the location, they might be different. However, so people said number one is more like people from Minnesota. So I'm not sure in the other states where you come from or the other locations. And then number two is, in theory, what they said is engagement, emotionally expressive, and then tell you very directly, are the people who are African American. And then also some of our patients or population who came from the Nigeria, Liberia, West African countries. And also some people from Russia, maybe in that box, or East European country in that box. And what I'm telling you is more like a foreign-born generation. That's what I can tell you also. Foreign-born generation, so not necessarily like my daughter who speaks English more than a Burmese. Her culture is more daycare culture than my culture, because the way she grew up in daycare, instead of my whole 40 hours a week, at least minimum. I work 54 hours, she did daycare at 54 hours. So that is a kind of more foreign-born patients, population possibilities. And then number three is people from Asia. So then they are emotionally controlled, and then they are telling you something very indirectly. So people from like an Asian country that is in that area, and then together with people from Asian country, can you guess who will be in that box? It is the people from East Africa. It is like Ethiopia in that box. So no wonder I and Alam, we can work together. We are in the same box. No complaint. So it is people from East Africa, and then people from more like Ethiopian countries, they may be in that box according to the theory. And then the last one is people from Middle Eastern country, like Saudi, or maybe people from Somalia. Some of our patients or family member may be in that box. Or Italy, very emotionally expressive, and then at the same time, they will tell you very indirectly. So that is more like a theory. So let me pause. Any questions or feedback? Do you have any experience when I said about that to think about someone? Or no questions? Or too many questions? Okay, so let's move on. So then here is more detail about what is the people preferences between direct and indirect. And for direct people, they will use the specific word, but indirect people, they will use the body language. Like sometime we communicate, like I and Alan being as a foreign born, we have lots of indirect communication you probably may not be aware of. For example, Alam, do you want to demonstrate something for our indirect communication sometimes? So did you notice something? I handed to him, okay. The lady at the back, what you are going to say something? Yes, I did. He said thank you. What did he say? He didn't say that. Uh-huh. Oh, he did show his thank you. Okay.
As a head, yeah. But there is something else that I did.
You're right. He kind of
Right.
nodded. That's the kind of respect showing that.
I can't give it to her. You can't look at her this time. Yeah, so that is respect. Giving in one hand is disrespect. When you give it, holding your one hand and give it that, it's respect. So you might see in the patient or an employee, this is what happened in my church. So after you just, the service is over, so you stood on the door and everybody come and shake your hand when they get out. So I just did it with two hands. First they just surprised, why he's doing that? Later on I just told them, now everyone is doing the same that I do. So I just taught them my culture. So doing with your two hands is respect, no matter what age they are.
So this is Alam, who came from Africa originally and grew up in Sweden. I came from Southeast Asia. But we were so surprised. This is the way I grew up, and this is the way he grew up. So then we don't need to communicate by verbally. And like you said, we met in a hallway, for example, we may say like that hi to each other. We don't say anything, showing a respect already. You don't hear any words, but you will see that. So in here, I'm giving him with my two hands instead of, because if I will be, sorry. If I want to show my respect, if he is a very high boss, for example, so I may use two of my hands. So in this case, I know Alam well already, so that I am not comfortable using one hand at all. So I'm putting my another hand at here. I give him like this. So showing my respect. So this is the way we communicate. So then we probably might not have a conflict at all because we communicated and non-verbally. That is the way of the indirect culture. So then if Alam is not reading my body cue, he might be upset because I did not say anything to him. I'm rude, in his opinion. Instead of saying thank you, but I nodded. So we communicated, but if we are from different cultures or different boxes, we may have misunderstanding. So that is the one conflict example I want to share with you in terms of word and no words. And emotionally expressive and then restrained. So emotionally expressive people, they want to communicate everything with their hand and gesture. But for emotionally restrained people, whenever they are angry more and more, their face become totally more and more flat. So that is in that scenario, because for expressive people, if you are angry, you should speak up. If you don't speak, then you are not showing your emotion. It means that you are not true. You are lying. So there might be a miscommunication. So that is the reason when there's a conflict, someone who is from the number one box is not comfortable with emotionally expressive people in the number two box. So then two become more and more angry because one become more and more back off because you don't say anything. Two is no, tell me more, tell me more. Then we can solve the problem, put it on the table. So that is kind of the conflict area. So then similar to that with 3 and 4, or maybe 1 and 4, or 3 and 2 and 3, it can be happened. So now, in a situation, I want you to think about that. And I want you to read and think about that. Recall a people, someone who you know of, in the workplace or in the patient care setting. Go ahead, what is your question?
I had an instance where I was drawing phlebotomy, and the other phlebotomist was a male, and a female came in her burqa, and she was even wearing gloves. And thank goodness the other gentleman, he was from Somalia, and he knew right away I cannot touch her, so he had to call me over. And I was smart enough to know that we needed to go into a private room because she was going to be exposing her arm, and she didn't want anybody else to see that. And she thanked both of us for understanding how important that meant to her to have us do that and to protect her privacy and all that.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Pedro.
I had the same experience with a patient too, and it was a female. I knock on the door, and I said I was from the lab, and the lady was, I think it was from Somalia. So when I walk in the room, she didn't have the burqa on, and I walk in, and then she said, "Oh, out." And I didn't understand at that moment what was going on, but then I get out, and then I knock again, and she said, "Oh, come in, now you're ready." And I realized she didn't tell me what was the problem, but then I realized she put it on, and they said, "Oh, maybe that's why the problem." So then I asked my Somali coworkers about that, and they explained to me that that is, I don't think it's not sure if a female will be okay, or it's just a male that cannot see them without, the burqa on. So that was my experience.
Thank you for sharing, Pedro. How about any of you? Any other feedback or experience you had with your patient or family member? Any other stories? So your point, Pedro, and the other lady, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but your point is that if I may go back, it is not about the conflict. Yes, it is a type of misunderstanding. It can be happened if you don't know. So people not only from the Somalia, but also people who strongly practice and believe in Muslim, because of the religious belief, it is the modesty. So should not show the other, including hair, the other body part to the strangers, in that case with a male who is come and draw the blood because of the modesty reason. And then not only the female, but also male, if you look at your coworker or the patient, male also need to be a part of the modesty. So then the shirt is usually always long sleeve. And then if you look at the pant, always up to this, navel, this feet in that area. So this is part of the modesty. So because of the religious strong belief. So we used to have one physician, he moved to Saudi Arabia right now. In Muslim religion, this is totally different than our topic, but I'm happy to share. So in Muslim religion, higher than the imam is a scholar, religious scholar. So who not only understand the Quran, who can interpret the Quran. Quran is similar to Bible. So then, that physician, he is the religious scholar. He used to work at Fairview, and he requested to myself and also the other whoever worked with him. He requested, no, I don't do handshake. So we understand and respect. So that is one of the things, FYI. It can be happen also. At the same time, of course, working in the healthcare setting, we understand, especially within the flu season, we don't do handshake. Just let it go. So pause and moment, and then I want you to think about the conflict. So for me is that, if I may go back to the slide, the previous one, even though I and my husband came from the same country, and we both are, in terms of religions, by Buddhist, the same. However, he grew up in a refugee camp between Thai-Burma border, and I grew up in the school, and I attended school and all those in my life. So we married, and then I realized we are from the different culture in that two boxes. Even the same age, almost the same age, same generation, similar education, but the way I grew up may be different than the way he grew up. So when I'm angry, I will become more and more flat-faced in that number 3 box. So then for him, number 2 box, tell me more, then I'm totally more back off. So more angrier for him. So that can be happened. Not necessarily based on the race and ethnicity, so FYI. So then this is the kind of cultural theory, and then it is done by Anita Rowe, that is very famous also. That I put a research who did it, so then you can do more additional work if you want to. So then in here, even though I have my own personality, but I have been shaped by my socioeconomic status and everything. And then in terms of, Fairview culture may be different than the lab department's culture. So then lab department may need to follow with all the number and digit and detail. Maybe I may be more relaxed than in terms of the way lab department do more numbers. So that can be happen, right? We all have this. So now these are the kind of proverbs. So then that is, I believe proverbs represent our cultures. So then I want you to read, I'm sure most of you may have been aware of squeaky wheels. Okay? And then you sure talking fast, you must have done it. Can you guess what culture it is? I need a volunteer. So it is African American culture. So if there's a conflict in African American culture, they don't come and complain to you. Because who would go and tell, if there's a 2 siblings fight, and then the one who come and talk to you, what do you think? Who made it? Who committed it? Who was wrong, in your opinion? Came and talked to you quickly. Came and talked to you is the wrong one. And I'm sorry, someone said? Came and talked to you is the wrong. How about the other people? What do you think? Two kids, they had a fight and come and talk to you. Who did it? Who came and talked to you is the wrong one. Okay? Any other persons? Okay. So can you please tell me more?
No, with my kids, it was always the other one that didn't come and talk to me. The one who came and talked to me would come and talk to me and tell me all about it, and so it was the other one who had caused the problem with my experience.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I have 5.
You have 5. Okay, good. That is very true. Thank you for sharing. So in theory, yes, that is more like a European American culture. Who came and talked to you did not do the wrong thing. Because he is the one right, that's why he came forward and talked to you. But if some of you, like mentioned that in some culture, who came and complained first is the one who made a mistake. So do you see that contraction or differences already? Different directions? In the workplace, maybe your team member, your employee come and talk to you. You think that he or she may be right, but at the same time, someone will never come and talk to you. Because they thought that they don't need to tell you because they don't do mistake. That might be possible also. And another one is that Asian culture, that nails that sticks out gets hammered down. So me as an Asian trying to be modest, I try to be more quiet. This is the way I grew up, like a passive-aggressive culture. People may give a bad name. That might be possible. So that being more like trying to be harmonized with the other people, that might be possible. And then another proverb is barking hyena is better than one which keeps silent. It is the Somali proverbs. And then the Ethiopian's proverb is something similar to Asian one, the nil also, because the fool speaks, the wise man listen. So like me, now I'm talking too much, he's listening. So this is what you will see, that cultural trick. So then the last one is I took it from the book of my daughter. That is, for me, this is beauty of the American culture, standing tall for what is right. So I think that is the beauty. I think hopefully that will reach to everyone, that message. So now, communication, that's what we mentioned about the body language, is the way I and Alam communicate. And then in some culture, especially in Southeast Asia, and then Southeast Asia means that like Thailand, China, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Burma, in these countries, we don't like when people touch our head. So head is our highest value, sacred area. So that is kind of the touch, maybe different than the other religion. So that is one thing. Do you have any experiences to share in terms of touch, in terms of any other experiences you have? You want to go?
Regarding the eye contacts, this is a real thing that happened here in Fairview without knowing other person culture. The person is from Ethiopia, and he has been over 12 years working in a lab, and so a new graduated white lady, she just employed as a manager, she's a boss. So all these years, when these guys, when you just give him an order, he don't see your eyes, but he just face down, he said, okay. But when this new, employee comes, and he don't see her eyes, but he just accept whatever she told him, she think he ignoring her, and she tell this guy is not working with me. So with the diversity department, we just intervene to resolve, and we said 1-to-1, and then I knew it where the problem is. In his not seeing you eye to eyes, if I see you directly, I disrespect you. But I should have to look at you like this, face down, and up. But it does not mean I'm ignoring you, but I'm respecting you. Without knowing somebody's culture, we just misinterpreting. And, that guy was close to be fired. But the diversity department intervened and resolved this kind of issue. So eye contacts in some culture is not good, but it is respect, not disrespect.
Thank you, Alam. So another one is about, we talk about handshake in terms of that's what you shared before, similar to that. So handshake can be happen also. And then another one is about the nodding. So some of our patients from South Asian countries, like for example, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, so there might be a kind of culture saying that, yes, maybe not necessarily like that. So saying nodding is not necessarily bobbing their head, not necessarily yes or no. It means that I hear you. I hear you. This is the kind of body language communication. It can be happen. And then about smile, there is a case study, so I will go to that. So what I want you to do is I want you to talk to your neighbor about this side is case number 1, and then this side is case number 2. 1 minute, speed dating. For both sides, if I go back to the slides. There you go. So are you ready? Okay, good. Well, let's go back to the case. So how about from the group, case number 1, what did you talk? Do you want to share? Anyone wants to share? Or 2, are you ready?
We thought maybe that the Brooklyn person would be more expressive and engaging. And we thought maybe that the people from the other countries might kind of be the one backing off as he's being engaging. Is that what we thought? Okay.
Thank you. How about any other ones? Any other feedback from the case number 1? Okay, so if I may go advance the slides, there are answers for those slides. So yes, he is a Fairview employee. He has been with Fairview for 30 years. He is upstairs. I requested him to come down if he had time today, but he said, no, Fridays are busy because of this church and all these things. So he's not here today, but he is African American. And then for him, yes, even though he happened to be African American, he happened to be, in theory, very emotionally expressive, but he is not. He is 30 years in Minnesota, has been transformed him to be very emotionally controlled. So when he is working with his staff likes him a lot because he works with very diverse employees and he knows everything, but at the same time, he is very emotionally controlled. So this is kind of the thing I learned also. This is what he shared with me. And he even tried to teach to his staff in some cases. So example about touch, he shared. How about from here, case number 2, what did you talk? Anyone wants to share? How about number 2? From here, what did you find out? Nothing is right or wrong. Okay, go ahead. Please.
We determined it was 3 because you and the other speaker are both from 3, but then it would flip to 1 because of having lived in France and here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're right. So she probably, in theory, is 3. However, she is totally 1. So at her church, people think that she sometimes is rude because she was telling very direct. Because the way she grew up in France, so that has been more like a French culture, is emotionally expressive and also very direct. So sometimes people are not comfortable with her. At the same time, she was telling what you hear is what I'm saying. So yes, great job. So with that, I want you to do for the 3 and 4. Then after that, we will go to case number 7. Then we will end our sections for a quick advices. So this time your group is 3 and your group is 4. And most of them, I asked their permission. So like Zamzam, she agreed to use her name, so that's why I can share her name. But the other, they said no, initial only, please. So that's why I put initial only. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, so let's start with case number 4. 3, 4, 4 is this group, right? You want to share? What is your discussion?
We were thinking that even though she grew up in Kenya, that all of her education was done in Minnesota, so it should probably be a 1 or a 3, because a lot of that, the cultural part of being in Minnesota and through the education system would be strong through that piece.
Any other thought? Do you agree with that? No? Do you? That's what you were thinking, that too? Okay, thank you. How about any of you? So yes, you're exactly right. She is more like, I can show you her picture. And some of you who works at Fairview, you may probably have met with her. So she is the one with the, here at the bottom, smiling, the one with her jacket. And any of you know Zamzam? So can you put her in a box? In theory, it's number 4. But do you think Zamzam will fit in that box? Even though she is originally from Somalia? So not necessarily. She is a very quiet, modest individual. Unfortunately, she cannot come here today, also Fridays, because of the time off she takes. So yes, she is very modest. And then another thing is, within the Somali community, there's a different cultures. So if I am originally from Somalia, I grew up in Somali, may be different than if I grew up in Kenya. So there might be a kind of culture has been shaped, grew up in the other country. That might be possible also. So yes. How about case number 3? What did you find out? Number 3, we need volunteers. Anyone? Uh-oh. Turning face away. No eye contact. There is a conflict. Yeah, leave me alone. So how about anyone about that story? Because I intentionally choose that I want to share it later instead of going full first. So number 3 is kind of, anyone? Do you want to?
She does. She had a comment, so that's why.
I was just focusing on the smile part and thinking that puts them in box 2 with the engagement, and with the child rearing more into the 1 because of the Minnesota influence.
Thank you. So yeah, so this gentleman, the truth is that he is in the theory is 3. Smile is the good point. He is in theory is 3. So I learned 2 things from him. So for this project, for all of these presentations in regard to conflict with a new curriculum I tried to develop at Fairview, I interviewed him. So I work in human resources, so then I knew there was one incident he had in the workplace. He was at somewhere within our system, and then one of the patient's family member came and asked him where to go to that location. So for him, smile is very trying to accommodate because of that number 3 box. Smile is trying to accommodate and also ease the tension. So he smiled and he told where to go. But patient did not understand patient family member did not understand his accent. Patient family member is from out of state, not from Minnesota, so out of state. So probably somewhere out of state, then he did not understand, unfortunately, his accent either too. Same like all of you, difficulty understanding my accent, right? So then the patient was really upset. This family member was really upset. What they did was they complained to patient relations. They said that this person did not show respect. At your employee who did not show respect, this is the serious situation. Our family member was at the hospital. We came here to find them, but this guy was smiling instead of giving the information. Even though it was the right information, but unfortunately 2 steps, smile. Second one is we did not understand. So that was the conflict he had it. So then that was the scenario. Then I had to talk to the HR person. I said that no, he is always the smiling person. If some of you who know him, I'm sure they can tell that he is always sweet smiling person. And then after that, when I interviewed him about this project, then he told me the story he shared. So how many of you have seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? Hotel Rwanda. This is the country he came from with the name of the hotel. It was about the Civil War. Rwanda. Have you seen that? Any of you? Do you recall that movie? You want to share?
Well, I saw the movie, but I don't quite remember everything that happened. It was a civil war in that country.
So I would recommend some of you, if you have a chance, I would recommend you to watch. I mean, not in a. It is kind of an emotional movie, I would say. So that is the Civil War. That is the country he came from. So he told me the story that he was about to be killed together with his wife in the family room when the people came to their house. So they put him. His children were in the bedroom. So then the guy who was about to kill him told him that you will be killed, and do you know that, and something like that. So that at the time that our friend FM, he smiled. And then the guy said that, why are you smiling? Are you serious? I'm going to kill you right now. So then he said that, no, you think about that, you are still young, and then you still have lots of future. Why do you want to kill me? And then in your whole life, you will remember this. You killed us in the living room. We did not do anything. You hand my tie down, and then you are about to kill us. You will remember. Then he started talking to that guy, and then the guy started to talking, and then how did he grew up, and all those stories he shared. And then just before in the morning, the guy let them go. The whole family was let go. So now here in Minnesota, this is the real story. And when he shared with me, he had tears. I was very emotional also. So this is the smile saved his life. This is how he had been influenced in his life. So he was trying to ease the tension in that scenario, similar to whatever situation. So that a kind of misinterpretation can be happened. Of course, I personally can share my own story with a smile. I failed my driving test 3 times. Try to be away from me, please, when you are driving. So number 3 times, so before I passed number 4, number 3 times, I was here in our county I or something like that. So then I did a lane change. I made a mistake. So then when I'm not comfortable, I smiled. I smiled. And then the person, examiner, she said, "Woman, this is serious. Go back. You failed." So this is life, I guess. So yes, I thought I was serious, but tried to ease the tension. So with that, I want you to talk about case number 7 for both sides. Then after that, we will go quickly with our advices. Are you ready? Who wants to share? I need only 2 volunteers. One from this side, one from that side. How about that story remind to someone you know? You're laughing. You don't know, that's good. Did it remind someone you know in your workplace? Who wants to share that story? Anyone? So in terms of theory, being as a South Asian, it will be probably box number 4. It is something South Asian is similar to in some cases, not necessarily always true, but in some cases in number 4, emotionally expressive. And then, however, being as a second generation, there might be a change. And also because of the parents' influence, especially in Asian culture. If you read the book, how many of you have had the book Tiger Mom? Tiger Mom. So that is very kind of very controversial book. If you Google, you will find out about that. The author is Amy Chua. So about how Asian parents push their children to be successful. So that is a kind of expectation from the parents. So that children become a more culture shock, pushback. They may probably more in the box number 2 than the 4. So in the workplace, may not be comfortable working with someone like that. If you are from the number 1, that can be happened. Okay. So Alam was telling me about one story, and then Alam, do you want to share?
Yeah, from the beginning, when you look at it, it's cross-cultural misunderstanding. Some of your ancestors years ago, when they came here, they came with their own culture. But does that culture still exist? I don't think so. It's a new culture, comes out. So it's a true story. A person come from Ethiopia to visit his family. The person who lived here has been over 40 years in America. Does that person have the same culture like the fresh Ethiopian guy? No. Guess what happened? In that culture, the guy, when they just get together, they just shake their hands and hug one another, or the women, they just kiss 3 times on the cheek. But if you just met a person, you have never seen him for many years, what do you expect? You should have to hug him. And he hug him, and then it's okay that one, but when they walk, his hands was on his shoulder, and then he just holding his hands, walking together. But the person who lived many years, he was not comfortable. You know the answer. So when they go home, he told him, from now on, when we walk, don't touch me. That guy was so shocked. Why? You are my brother, so we have been for many years. No. This culture, when just hold one another, people, they think we are gay. What? He scared the other one. Okay, from now on, I'm not touching you. So that is a cultural misunderstanding. In that culture, it's common to, hug one another and walk in the street. That is common in Ethiopia, because everyone, they have the same kind of mentality. But when come here, so they just scared. They completely changed their own culture because the other culture was not normal to do that for them. Which culture, which community? Their own Ethiopian community. They don't do that. If they see, they are. So they scare. They completely change. So culture without knowing in other cultures is misinterpreted.
Thank you, Alam. So with that, I think we are going to end our section. So we want to suggest you, because you can read the PowerPoint like I said, so here are our few suggestions. If you're working with a foreign-born generations, if you have a kind of difficulty communication, these are the kind of thing. And then at the same time also, like I refer some of the movies or some of the books, I would recommend that. And then exposure to those area of food, or food is the best way to explore the culture. I'm sure you all know that. So that's what our recommendation. And then nothing is right or wrong. Trying to, in some cases, you can ask your patients what is the best way to give them the service. So with that, I think I'm going to share with you this is our Woki Johnson, who is the nurse at Fairview. Some of you may have seen her. She's originally from Liberia. She said that totally I'm box number 2 yet. Put me in that box. So sometimes she present with me together. And then Zamzam is here, and then some of our workplace. So with that, I think we are end for our sections. And thank you so much. And I want to request email from you so that we can improve our future presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayat and Ellen, to share your knowledge and experiences with cross-cultural communication. It was very interesting.